Today on the Cloud for Utilities Summit stage, we are joined by Scott Thatcher, who is the COO of SAP Regulated Industry. Scott, thank you for being here with us.
Good morning. Thanks for having me.
So SAP Regulated Industry, I know that's such a broad portfolio within SAP, but can you share with our audience, what was your career path to SAP RI?
Sure, happy to. I've been at SAP for 2 years, so I'm by no means a utilities industry expert, but I certainly have a long tail on the cloud evolution. I spent 16 years at Microsoft prior to coming to SAP. The last 8 years, it was sort of fascinating irony between what the big hyperscale cloud providers are doing. They're turning themselves inside out, really to replicate the utilities business model by delivering compute services on a consumption-based, really utility model, and it was really fascinating to see that. Started as a rep, and then I ran a team, and then I ran a business, and really, it was in 2009, I think, when the Department of Agriculture was the first agency to adopt a cloud email platform. GSA followed about 5 months later. So it's been an interesting evolution, watching Microsoft really turn itself inside out, go through a period of where we weren't sure we were going to make the turn. As I look to take that next step after running the business of the civilian government for 5 years, I had a good friend in Brian Roach who had suggested that we connect, and the opportunity to come to SAP allows you to move up the value chain a little bit. The hyperscale cloud environment is a really fascinating, huge investment area, huge growth area, but there's a little bit of a race to the bottom on pricing, and there's a little bit of a commodity end game right there. And when you move to an SAP, you're moving up the value chain, right? And interestingly, when I came to SAP, there was talk about, well, we can provision data center services consistent with the hyperscalers, and now, we're really clear on our strategy. In fact, our CEO was on CNB recently, or a similar venue, talking about how we're going to cloud, but we're going to cloud with the hyperscalers, and that's the partnership. We're not going to be in that hyperscale cloud business. The opportunity to come to SAP, really, as you say, a broader portfolio. It's the utilities business, which is an opportunity for me to learn and grow. It's the aerospace and defense business. It's healthcare, state and local government, defense, and civilian part of the federal market. So it was sort of a growth mindset decision to really challenge myself. I was incredibly uncomfortable with it, so I knew it was the right thing to do. Mm-hmm. And it's been a tough 2 years of learning, but it's been great. It's been a lot of fun, and here we are.
Scott, you sound busy. What's your assessment of the cloud market as it relates to utilities, just overall?
So, the irony that I'll point to, it sort of speaks to the position of the cloud market. While Microsoft, Amazon, and Google were emulating a utility business model, the utilities weren't interested, because it was an OpEx switch from CapEx, which is something that doesn't work in the utilities industry, or hadn't worked in the utilities industry for a long time. So it was just, the irony of it was fascinating to me as I came over and started to learn more and more about utilities, and how there were financial and structural disincentives for cloud computing. Which is great if you're trying to hang on to your legacy business, but you're trying to evolve as well as the utilities companies are. I think where we are today, and what I've seen over the last 2 years as I look at our teams working with our customers to try to figure out what's the right direction. We had a very large customer about a year ago make a very big foundational decision to go with our Cloud for Customer platform, and it was a very painful decision for them to make internally, because you have to, when you look at embracing the cloud economics, the cloud innovation value proposition, you're also having to go through an argument of losing control, of giving up control, right? If there's an outage, if there's a performance issue, right, you're not controlling the boxes, and so there's a mindset and an evolution that customers have to go through. So we saw that happen, and they made the decision to go to cloud. It's been a good process with us so far. I think that as customers look to, make a lot of hard decisions, they have to really look at the whole value chain. And as we look at, the product development, this was true at Microsoft, it's true at SAP, and it's true at our competitors. The product development investments are going into cloud first, right? That is where companies are investing in their product roadmaps, right? The legacy platforms, we're still doing a lot of product development, but the money is going to the cloud platforms, right? And the reason for that is that's where the growth is, right? Quite frankly. When you look at the innovation from companies that's in market today, and you look at the innovation of companies that are going to be in market tomorrow, they're going to be born in that platform. Those offerings are going to be born in the cloud, and they're going to be delivered in the cloud, most likely. When you look at the DevOps environments that are being stood up in our customers, that's sort of the playground for figuring out what the new business models could look like, learning and making mistakes quickly, hopefully, and experimenting with different delivery models, with moving from sort of the legacy mainframe, maybe not necessarily customer-centric environment, to an environment where you're trying to deliver, a consumer-grade modern application user experience with, user-centered design concepts to embrace the consumer. Because when you look at the utilities industry, the disruption with the new entrants and the new models is forcing, 50, 60, 100-year-old companies to realize that they don't have the position that they've had in the marketplace, right? They have to now compete. The competition is good. It's what our country was founded on. The industrial base of our country was founded on. It was good for Microsoft. Microsoft wouldn't be the company it is today without Google and Amazon pushing it. Same with our auto industry, right? So competition is a good thing, and it'll be good for utilities, and it'll drive a lot of experimentation. It'll drive a lot of innovation across some of these, very, talented, very capable set of utilities customers that we have, and they're investing and spending a lot of time talking to us about, how to transform their business, where to make those experiments. And, we just made a big acquisition in Qualtrics. So our focus is where their focus is. It's about wrapping a customer experience, understanding the customer experience and wrapping a set of capabilities and experiences for them that puts them at the center a little bit more. And you see the disruption in the market really driving that. So, one caveat I would say is the nuclear side. Mm-hmm. We're not ready. They're not ready. That's a different conversation. But the non-nuclear side of the business is really, I think the leadership has figured out that the opportunity cost of not embracing and leaning in cloud is quite frankly obsolescence. And the risk of that is so much higher than not moving in. And the one thing I'll go back to on the CapEx side, where I talked about, the irony is that while Microsoft was trying to become a utility companies aren't interested in the OpEx transition, but that's changing. And I would say, there's an expression that an executive at Microsoft, I heard him say a number of times, that necessity is the motherhood of invention. And I think that's true here as well, because when you look at what the CFO's offices are trying to do, they're trying to figure out, is there an accounting treatment for cloud that allows me to maintain a CapEx profile? And I've seen customers look at, if we pay for it all up front, can we qualify it as an asset? Or if I can get maybe using a partner managed cloud solution, if I can get a serial number for a box that's in a data center, then I can call it a capital asset. So there's a lot of experimentation. There's a lot of soul searching, or a lot of testing the barriers from an accounting perspective. How can we continue to qualify some of the cloud investments as CapEx, or quite frankly, looking at your business model and embracing the OpEx piece and figuring out how to succeed and how to run your business without the sort of the legacy CapEx mindset, right? And that's a real challenge, because quite frankly, that's turning the battleship. That's a much longer tail exercise. The other thing on the industry side, we're working with our customers and resellers to figure out, how do we package offerings up that involve cloud assets, but still allow the customer to capitalize it as an asset, right? And so there's a lot of change and evolution going on sort of in that space that I think will play out over the next couple of years and help our customers out, and we'll get smarter, they'll get smarter, and we'll figure out what the new looks like at some point. So, long answer, but it's a fascinating place. The utilities can't keep doing what they're doing. The disruption in the new models is bringing in, competition. Competition's great because it's going to force the utilities to reinvent themselves. There's a lot of talent in these organizations, and they're going to find a path forward. I think cloud gives them an agile environment to experiment, to stand up and tear down applications and resources, and really figure out without some of the sort of historical sort of cost of experimentation for business models. So we'll see where it goes.
Let's spend a moment just really focused on SAP. I mean, how is SAP approaching the cloud for utilities market?
Yeah. Well, given the backdrop of what I just shared, we need to be really thoughtful, right? I mean, we can't go in and say, this is what cloud looks like, it's going to be this way or the highway. One, utilities is top 3 industry across SAP. So, we have a tremendous investment in the sort of core, back-end system and maturing that to make it, greater and greater as a back office, core accounting platform. We have a huge investment in the cloud assets that we have that go around that, whether it's spend management, whether it's human capital, or other areas. So that, I think the most important thing for us to do is to provide choice, right, and options for our customers. So, and I would think of platform as a service, software as a service, options in that space, right? So, platform as a service is something as simple as database as a service, HANA as a service, right, for different business or mission applications that are sort of outside of the core back office set of capabilities. I talked about the need to be able to capitalize an asset if we can get a serial number. A lot of our partners and their partner managed cloud offerings, they can do that, right? If you're going to run at a hyperscale cloud environment, you're never going to get a server serial number out of a Microsoft or an Amazon or a Google Cloud platform, nor should you. It breaks the whole economics of the business model and the efficiencies of the operational model. But we have partner managed cloud offerings. SAP has a managed service offering where we could run it in a customer's data center. We have a HANA Enterprise Cloud offering, and HANA Enterprise Cloud offering is a cloud delivered service where you can bring your own license. We have a lot of customers that have made huge investments in the on-premise license, the sort of classic on-premise, classic Coke, if you will, licensing model. And they want to run those assets in a cloud environment. We have partners like IBM, Accenture, and Deloitte, Utegration, others that can put a managed services layer around that, can contract with SAP and deliver that HEC service. And quite frankly, there's a little bit of competition between us and the integrators on that managed service piece. So again, back to the point, competition will be good. We'll make them better, they'll make us better, and the customers will benefit. The other piece, and where all of this is going, is to the sort of single tenant or multi-tenant platform. And when you think single tenant, multi-tenant, just think S4 for a minute. It's a continuum. Single tenant is much more customizations friendly, much more set of functionality. But when you get to a multi-tenant environment, think no customizations but configuration. This was the exercise at Microsoft when we delivered. We had a single tenant environment that you could do a lot more configuration, customization, flexibility, and then we went to the multi-tenant offering, which is the predominant offering that you'll see in the cloud email providers, where it's really like an application fabric, and customers have a tenant within there. But there's very limited customization, and it's more of a configurable menu, and the menu is limited compared to a single tenant, fuller feature set of capabilities. So we're seeing in the smaller end of the market that the multi-tenant S4 cloud offering is a viable offering. We don't see that for the majors and the bigs. there's just too much flexibility is required in their implementation. So the single cloud offering or a HANA enterprise cloud with a bring your own license sort of approach is what we're seeing there. So at the end of the day, part of that exercise too is, getting your customer comfortable with, well, what if there's an outage, and what if we have an application performance issue? How do we resolve? How do they agree to, the recovery time periods, and what defines an outage? So, contractually, there's a lot more complexity in getting, contracts for cloud done than contracts for legacy licensing, because it's just when they buy your software and run it in their data center, it's a customer vendor. When you're running an application on their behalf, it's kind of like family. Everyone's at the table at Thanksgiving, and we don't talk politics and religion, right? But that was clearly when you're running a customer's business in your data center, your relationship is much more intimate. You're much more accountable for that performance. We're embracing that, and obviously, things are going pretty well. The cloud growth at SAP has been strong. The cloud trajectory in this industry and in the other industries and regulated is very strong. In fact, I think we have this last quarter we eclipsed our on-prem revenue with our cloud revenue, which is the first time. Mm-hmm. So pretty exciting for us.
Quite the transformation.
Yeah.
Scott, one final question, if you can. Could you share, what technology does SAP have planned to better facilitate cloud in the utility industry?
We're doubling down on the cloud product roadmaps and development. That's where we're focusing our best and brightest, and that's where we're really trying to drive the market. I talked about Cloud for Customer, which is the Hybris, sort of historical Hybris, what we call our Hybris business, and the big commerce engines that they have and the billing engines. Moving that to a high performing single tenant cloud environment is a core priority for us in getting we have thousands of customers where we want to embrace that and continue to grow that business and make that more appealing to our customers. We have this Cloud for Energy, which the V1 release was June of 2018, and Cloud for Energy really is it reinforces that the cloud platform is the preferred development environment and delivery environment. It provides really the foundational sort of platform for helping customers figure out new business models. It's the meter to cash sort of core piece. It's an analytics and data aggregation integration platform that's we hope customers will use to look at data across all spectrums of their business and figure out how that, what are the signals in that data that tell them what an opportunity might be or what a business risk might be. And that's a really big focus for us as well, the Cloud for Energy platform. And again, just maturing the S4 cloud capability within the single tenant, within the multi-tenant to continue to make that appealing to customers. That's really a big focus for ours. And then when you look at our spend management piece, the concurrent contingent workforce with Fieldglass, the Ariba spend, the Ariba procurement network, and the Concur travel management, that's a really important set of SaaS, software as a service offerings that are best in class that we think will continue to be important to customers. But continuing to integrate those set of capabilities that sit around the digital core and bring that integration together for even better outcomes for our customers. That's really the priority.
Scott Thatcher, COO, SAP Regulated Industries. Thank you so much for joining us today here at Cloud for Utility Summit.
Great, Amos.
Thank you very much, Scott.
Spend time with you.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.